Hey, it's Nitya with Nitya Living. Today I thought I would share with you a very unusual astrology chart from a very unusual person, Marilyn Manson, who has recently been in the news with some pretty awful allegations of sexual abuse, mistreatment of women. He's born January 5th, 1969. At 20:05, so that's 8:05 p.m. So his chart has a lot of yang elements. Listen to this. You've got Yang Earth Monkey is his year. His month is Yin Wood Ox. The day of Yang Metal Dragon, and the hour of Yang Fire Dog. The only pillar of these four pillars that is yin is his month. The rest is all yang. And when someone has a lot of yang energy, they tend to be far more aggressive. Also remembering that dragons, and I mentioned this in the video I did about Putin, who has, I believe, 3 dragons in his chart. The more dragons you've got, the more likely you are to be a dictator. So this is somebody who really is like a leader, someone who needs to be in control. And dragons tend to also be magical and mystical. There's an aspect to them that that draws wonder, curiosity, almost like they show just enough to get you interested. What is this, So in that, I sometimes find dragon people to be a bit of an enigma. You look at his hour of the Yang Fire Dog is very interesting. That's, for him, that fire and earth creates a lot of success for him. But because when you have your ruling element and the element that nourishes you activated in your chart in some way, it gives you a good flow for your career to be successful, and for you to have power. But the problem with power is it can be too much. And for his chart, he has almost 50% of his chart is the element that nourishes him. This is like too much of a good thing. It's Jalbird is what it's called. Don't know why. There's interesting Chinese terms, but so basically what this means is the mother energy is overwhelming. And this can be, it's like a mother that smothers. It's interesting also that his life pillar speaks to the fact that his mother is one of the most important people in his life story. And that mother element is so dominant in his life. So dominant. So there's just way too much earth. Where he really needs that element of earth to be controlled is with water, which is his weakest element. Fire is a slightly weak element, but really it's water. Interestingly, water is, when you think of where water rests in the body, it rests in the sexual organs, okay? So somebody with weak water may have a hypersexuality or sexuality issues. So that's an interesting thing to note. He's balanced and strong in his own metal. But really and truly, he's like almost 75%, I would say about 75% of his own energy is wrapped up in himself and that which nourishes him. And so that makes him a dominating person. So you've got that layer of his elements on top of the layer of being a dragon person that is really fueling someone who has a lot of power, and a lot of strength and ability to be aggressive about that, to be somebody that's a leader. And since you look at his role in life as an artist and a musician, I don't know if it's leadership so much as somebody who needs to be in control of what's going on. He needs to be in control of his band. He needs to be in control of the art he's creating. He needs to be the one writing his book or writing his songs, right? He's born in the year of the monkey. And the monkey is somebody that is like a trickster and somebody that can be up to shenanigans, somebody that likes to be diversified in what they do because they get bored easily. They also like to solve problems. They like to figure things out, you know, like somebody that solves puzzles. And then we look at, where was I going with that? So much to these things. I was curious also looking at his life pillar, because his life pillar is a yang metal horse, which shows that his life is very much about himself, understanding who he is, his identity, okay? And also about not only his career, but this is somebody that is very affected by their family, by their work, by their mother, and also legal stuff. This is somebody that's born to, you know, go through all kinds of different legal obstacles, to challenge the law. Absolutely, with a dragon and a monkey. Oh, yeah. Let's challenge law. Yeah, it's about, he's got a life that's really about looking at how he manages his responsibilities, to all the things he's responsible for. This horse combines with the dog and his hour to create fire. And fire, you know, that's a great thing because his fire is slightly weak at 13%. And because of that surge of fire in his life pillar, it gives him kind of a hidden flow of fire to support his career, to boost his career. That's a good thing, right? Everybody wants that. Now, interestingly enough, his current luck cycle, well, let me not jump too far ahead of myself here. So his current luck cycle is mirroring his life pillar, mostly. It's not yang metal, it's yang earth sitting on top of the horse. So there's this fire surge coming in now, and this has been since 2018. And when you look at 2018, the first time that he was accused of sexual assault and all kinds of weird stuff in relationships was 2021. So I would imagine that since 2018, there's been a mounting amount of legal action against him. And so when we look, so there's a surge of fire that's really highlighting his career right now. And the horse also forms a harm with the ox in his month. But that is neutralized because of the surge of fire. That's also a good thing. So if we continue going backwards, well, let's finish with this last piece, looking again that 2018 to 2028, he is in a life review right now. And this life review is, because it's Yang Earth sitting on top of this horse, this is all about religion, his faith, wrestling with his demons is what came to me. Wrestling with his demons. What is supporting him? How is he being supported by this earth energy? This faith, his spirituality. How is his faith supporting him in this 10-year period? And then, again, we've got the horse that's highlighting his career. It's highlighting his responsibilities. And it's also looking at the mother figure as well as legal action. And that legal action, this is interesting. I've mentioned this before, because there's this harm with the ox. When we have two animals banging up against each other in a chart, what can happen is the hidden aspect, which is this legal aspect in the horse, breaks open. Now, surging is this fire, right, which is what rules and controls him. That's his career and other things that rule and control him. And so you've got this surge of these energies and this legal action. This is breaking out. So this is what comes out. This is where you have suddenly the news reports these things, something's broken open. Okay. So that's kind of that, I found all of this to be such an interesting thing. Now, if we go dial all the way back to where he began his career, 1988, was bringing in a wood trio, and that wood trio was money and the surge of money. It was also bringing up conflict with his dragon and his dog. His dragon and dog actually are in conflict in his chart. This is an interesting thing too. The dragon and the dog. So this is his career and his self. Not only his self, his personal intimate relationships. There is some kind of conflict going on between his intimate relationships and his work. They are not at all in sync. Not at all in sync. There's also a punishment in his chart. The ox and the dog. And it's interesting, the placement of those, because the ox is where his parents are. And the dog is where his career is. And, he grew up in this very Catholic upbringing. And so you can see where that conflict created a lot of stress for him from his family dynamic. So in some way, he suffered for this conflict in his chart. So this family dynamic, I think, is fueling his kind of retaliation against that in his career, in his music. And it's interesting because the Bing, fire, sitting next to his Yang metal, this is a challenge. Fire and metal are a challenge, right? This is like heavy metal. That's what comes to mind. This is heavy metal music. That's crazy. But it is like his career is a challenge. It's a fiery challenge for him. And the dog in there feels like he is entitled to create a justice from something he feels is justified, that he's entitled to. So interesting. Also, his work brings out hidden elements in himself. Brings out hidden elements in himself. And there's also this element of family and career, different aspects of his career opening up. So all of these things happening. So 1988, his career takes off. There's a surge of wood bringing in money. Lovely. Then the next luck cycle, 2008. So this is when we've got a punishment with his monkey in a snake period. And that's all kinds of trouble. Yeah, not an easy time there. A lot of conflict. I don't know how much I was hearing about him in the news during that period of time, 2008 to 2018, which is what I had started talking about. It kind of worked our way backwards and forwards again, if you could keep up. But the point being that where he is now is ripe for lawsuits. And very interesting character. And I think that they're like the pieces of his chart that speak so loudly to me are the conflicts in his chart, the Zhao bird of having way too much earth energy, his need for water, and the heavy metal music is definitely a metal fire interaction, with the fire surging into his chart from his life pillar. From this current luck cycle, things are shifting and changing in his career right now, for sure. So it'll be interesting where he goes with this. When you look at his relationships, just in case you were wondering about his romantic relationships, we've got Yang Earth, again, all of this Yang Earth in his chart, which really highlights this is somebody that he sees as having a spiritual connection. That is what he wants more than anything with somebody, is a spiritual connection. Now, again, because he's got so much earth, I think that can get to be overwhelming. The interaction with that earth element is overwhelming. So he's got to try and control it. And then there's also this hidden element within the dragon of this being the placement for a romantic relationship. And it's very anchored. It's, which is typically very good for holding on to a relationship. There's also an aspect of rebellion here, of doing a relationship differently from how it typically is done. Well, we certainly have seen that played out. Now, another interesting thing about this guy is he's a planner, he's organized, he's also stubborn, and likely more of somebody with a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. He also is very strongly manipulative, a survivor, and somebody who will fight to the nth degree if backed into a corner, even if he's in the wrong. He will continue his fight. Does not like to sit still, likes to stay active, wants to be busy, wants to be engaged, very competitive. He's also has an abrasive, wild side that is somebody that pursues his desires and passion, almost without regard for how he satisfies those passions and desires. He's a very adventurous person, problematic relationships. And the last piece is that he's more likely to marry or couple with multiple women in long-term relationships. And he's likely going to be a wealthy, successful person, which he has been. And he's an idealist. He's a dreamer. He's somebody that's kind of a little out of touch with reality. Somebody that dreams life in a different way. So very much like a dragon. And yeah, that pretty much sums up our Marilyn Manson chart. Wild. Just wild, isn't it? If there is somebody's chart that you're curious for me to dive into and look at, I'm happy to do that. I find all of these very interesting. I was thinking of Haley and Justin Bieber, just because they have like such a sweet romance, and I would love to see what brings them together in such a beautiful way. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. Feel free to like and subscribe. And if you are curious to see your own Bazi Chinese astrology chart, go to knityaliving.com and you can order one today. Thank you so much and be well.